Expect more right now. You're watching Wave 3 News.
I said, so do you think he'll sign? And he was like, yeah, with perks like this, you know, hell yeah, he'll sign.
She says she set up prostitutes and parties for U of L players and recruits, working with former staffer and player Andre McGee. Today, self-proclaimed Madam Katina Powell, putting it all out there, all the allegations in her bombshell book, Breaking Cardinal Rules. Thanks for joining us here at 7. I'm Janelle McDonald.
And I'm Connie Leonard. This morning, Powell spoke on national television for the first time. Her book claims those alleged parties involved sex and alcohol.
ESPN is reporting Coach Rick Pitino is calling on Andre McGee to speak up about what the truth really is. Powell spoke on ESPN's Outside the Lines, elaborating on those accusations that could tarnish a storied basketball program.
Andre was the one who always had the money, passed out the money, made it rain, made the deals, paid for the deals.
Katina Powell says the idea of switching from stripping to sex was former card staffer Andre McGee's, asking if any of the dancers wanted to make a little money on the side.
So I asked the girls, you know, anybody want to make extra money? And their eyes just lit up like, well, yeah.
In her interview with Outside the Lines reporter John Barr, Powell says some of the biggest names in recent U of L history, some who played at U of L and others who went elsewhere, had sex with her girls on recruiting visits. Montrezl Harrell, Jaquan Lyle, Antonio Blakeney, another recruit, and Terry Rozier. One of Powell's daughters claims she had sex with Harrell.
Montrezl Harrell was there, and I don't know, I guess he felt left out, so he just kind of asked me if, you know, I would do it. And I did it. I got paid like $100, maybe a little more.
Outside the Lines reports that 3 unnamed former players and at least 2 recruits confirmed parties with strippers. One of the players, ESPN reports, confirmed sex with one of the dancers. Powell says she is 100% telling the truth and kept detailed records to back herself up.
Because I knew that this day would come, and I knew that one day they would say, she's lying.
Most of the players specifically named in the ESPN report have responded to the allegations in some manner. Harrell, now in Houston, says he never heard of nor saw those kind of parties. Blakeney's mother denied he was even in Louisville in the date in question. Rozier, who plays for the Celtics, said he would answer questions on the allegation when the time comes. And Lyle has reportedly talked to investigators and confirmed what we're told is the gist of that story.
And Janelle, we know that Coach Pitino has said if anybody's involved in wrongdoing, they should be dealt with. There should be punishment. A lot of people are talking on social media about how Powell first said that she never saw Pitino around and didn't know if he knew anything. Later, what she said was a little bit different.
Yeah, this afternoon she actually said on Outside the Lines that she had a theory.
4 years, a boatload of recruits, a boatload of dancers, loud music, alcohol, security, cameras, basketball players who came in at will. You got players that are so loyal to Pitino. Who wouldn't go back and be like, hey, you know, we got dancers and sex and all that going on. My thing is, how could he not know?
Another question on a lot of people's minds, could Katina Powell face charges for what she's alleging?
According to Louisville defense attorney Brian Butler, yes, if investigators want to build a case. So could Andre McGee, not necessarily for prostitution, but for promoting prostitution by helping organize those parties that she's talking about. Powell's book and interview, Butler says, is all the evidence prosecutors would need. Her daughters appear to be in the clear, though.
There is a 1-year statute of limitations in Kentucky for being engaged in prostitution, so this has happened in the past. They're probably all in the clear. It seems to me that Mr. McGee and she have some exposure to promoting prostitution, which is more, it's not just engaged in it, it's, you know, being the person sort of in charge of doing that.
Now, Butler says Powell's claim of being a middleman is not a defense. If it's found they both helped organize the parties that's promoting prostitution, a felony in Kentucky with no statute of limitation, it carries 1 to 5 years in prison. Louisville Metro Police tell us right now they are available to help if needed, but are not investigating this case. University of Louisville Police have the lead on this one.
We have much more ahead on this developing story, including an in-depth look at what could happen in the NCAA's investigation and what this means for this year's Cardinal basketball team. That is all coming up in our next half hour. But right now, and 24/7, you can check our mobile app, our website, and our Facebook page for updates. Make sure to download the app and like us on Facebook so that you receive the latest updates on this story right when we do. In other news tonight, Jeffersontown police shoot and kill a man.
Police say the suspect robbed a man at gunpoint at the Jimmy John's on Hurstbourne Lane. And as Wave 3 News reporter Casey Cunningham explains, when the officers caught up with him, the suspect pulled a gun on them too.
Police say this happened right around lunchtime. There are a lot of restaurants in the area and folks were walking and shopping and getting lunch. Meanwhile, a robbery was happening just behind this hotel where the Jimmy John's is. Police chased the suspect from the Jimmy John's all the way here to the Holiday Inn, just to this grassy area over here. Police say the suspect stuck a gun in a man's face at Jimmy John's and demanded his car. The Jimmy John's employees then called 911. Officers chased him here to the Holiday Inn. The suspect pulled a semi-automatic weapon from his pants. It was a gun. Police say they asked him to put his hands up, but he continued to pull the gun from his waistband. Police say they then shot him several times.
And we've talked about the heroin problem before, but it makes desperate people do desperate things, and that could be the cause for this robbery. But it's a very sad state when you have people so addicted to opioids that they'll do something like this to try to get enough money for their next high.
2 Jeffersontown police officers have been placed on administrative leave. We aren't told their identities yet, but told we'll be learning that information soon. We're also told by police some of the police in the area were wearing body cameras, and we're hoping to get that footage as well. Reporting in Jeffersontown, Casey Cunningham, Wave 3 News.
Casey, thank you. New video tonight as demolition of the old water company building downtown begins. It's making way for that $300 million Omni Hotel project. We didn't see any work actively taking place this morning, but a crane is there along with rubble. Last week, the Historic Preservation Committee lost its plea to the Metro Landmarks Commission to save the old water company building. Mayor Greg Fisher applauded the decision, which will bring 700 construction jobs and 300 permanent jobs.
New at 7 o'clock tonight, Republican candidate for Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin is getting a boost in ads in the final weeks before the election. The Republican Governors Association purchased more than $1 million worth of ads for the next 2 weeks. The RGA had pulled out of Kentucky last month, a major blow to Bevin. At the time it pulled out, Bevin had just aired one TV ad after spending more than $1 million of his own money to win a 4-way Republican primary.
Up next, a boyfriend and his ex-cop brother now believed to be involved in the disappearance of a Nelson County mother. The video showing how the two handled their interviews with detectives.
A suspect caught dancing on top of a burning building, but this was not his first strange move of the day. The method police used to eventually catch him.
Wow. All right. Well, we are tracking some changes in the weather, not only for this weekend, but for next week as well. I'll explain coming up. But first, here is the latest look at your Kentucky Lottery jackpots. We'll have those come up as well next. Stay with us.
A strange sight and a difficult challenge for police this week.
Yeah, check out this suspect found dancing atop a burning house, refusing to get down. And before that, 25-year-old Matthew Russ accused of stealing his estranged girlfriend's car, running it through a utility pole and then setting her home on fire. Armed with a butcher knife, police say he resisted every effort to peacefully end the standoff. 75 minutes after it started, police ended up shooting him with rubber bullets and then using a stun gun on him so they could get him off the roof.
Had we not made that decision at the time he probably would have succumbed to smoke inhalation or much less burn up. So it absolutely was the proper decision. It was talked about here for several minutes, and that decision was given much consideration, but I can say that it probably saved his life.
Rather than jail, officials took Russ to a hospital for a mental evaluation.
Attorneys here in Kentucky are seeking the death penalty for 2 men charged in the death of a University of Cincinnati professor. Kevin Howard and Charles Black are accused of kidnapping and then murdering Randy Russ. Russ, a part-time computer science professor at UC, was reported missing from his Kentucky home last August. 1 month later, police arrested the suspects after Black led authorities to Russ's remains. Although Black says he only helped bury the body, Commonwealth attorneys are pursuing the death penalty against both suspects.
As many as 50 guns stolen this week from an Indiana gun shop. It is the second gun shop burglary in that area in about 2 months. Anderson, Indiana police say thieves took between 10 and 50 firearms yesterday morning from Crack Shot Guns. The burglars broke in through a roof shared by a computer repair store next door. Thieves took cash from that computer store as well. On August 13th, another of Anderson's 3 gun shops was broken into for the second time this year. 4 suspects were arrested in that case.
They're keeping their promise. The fraternity brothers that made this lipped up go viral are using the perks of their 15 seconds of fame for good.
A suspicious item found at Keeneland less than 2 weeks before the Breeders' Cup, the highly restricted area where officials believe that object came from.
And some wintry weather may be close to us just before the Breeders' Cup. I'll explain coming up. But first, let's take a look at your Kentucky Lottery jackpots. I had to double check first to make sure I didn't win. I did not. So now I can show you the jackpots as they stand now. The Mega Millions, $93 million, and the Powerball is at 90.
What happened to a missing mother last seen nearly 4 months ago? Police believe her boyfriend and his ex-cop brother were likely involved. Boyfriend Brooks Houck was the last to see Crystal Rogers back in July.
Tonight, for the first time, we are hearing both from Brooks and his brother Nick as they were questioned by detectives.
Wave 3 News reporter Katie Bauer has more from Bardstown.
Crystal Rogers' parents say from day one they've had no doubt who is involved in their daughter's disappearance. Now newly released police interviews give us an inside look at this ongoing investigation.
Every day you wake up and you think, where is she? You know, where is she out there? She has to be somewhere.
Just a couple days after mother of 5, Crystal Rogers, was reported missing by her family, her longtime live-in boyfriend, Brooks Houck, was interviewed by a Nelson County Sheriff's detective. Brooks explains that he wasn't alarmed when he woke up and Crystal wasn't there, saying he believes she left after midnight to meet up with friends.
And it's not uncommon for them, when they go out and party, they stay out the better part of the night, if not the whole night.
Brooks says he did try to call Crystal the next day and stresses to the detective that he is innocent. He says his main concern is the couple's 2-year-old child, Eli.
Now, Eli is in an atmosphere where I've got all the hope in the world, but now I'm a single parent, it appears to me.
During the interview, he takes a call from his brother, Nick Houck, a former police officer.
I know I'm not, I know that. But the way that I look at it is I'm innocent, I ain't done nothing wrong. Well, you know, I know you told me innocent people have got jammed up, but if you're telling me to leave, I'll get up and leave.
A week later, Nick agrees to talk.
We got some issues.
KSP detectives tell Nick that his cruiser was tested and bodily fluids were found on a blanket.
We can't change what happened in that trunk. We can't change that the test showed that there's bodily fluids in that trunk area. What we need to do is we need to find out why that's the case.
Last week, Nick was fired from the Bardstown Police Force for interfering with the case. He also failed a polygraph.
Did your brother ever call you and say that he'd done something to Crystal? No, he did not.
I just have to keep the faith that one day I am going to know.
And at this time, the Houck brothers do not face charges of any kind. In Nelson County, Katie Bauer, Wave 3 News.
We are less than 2 weeks away from the Breeders' Cup at Keeneland, but today there is an investigation into a suspicious item found in one of the barns there. The Kentucky Horse Racing Commission says it's not sure if the object was misplaced equipment or something more malicious. Officials will not say exactly what that object was, but say that it was found under a pile of hay in one barn and was taken from a testing barn. That testing barn is where horses' blood is tested for carbon dioxide levels, and access to that part of Keeneland is strictly limited. Though they are treating it as something suspicious, officials do not think there's a safety threat to any people attending the races at the track.
That's good news. Well, a beautiful day out there again today.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Brian's talking about some cold weather you were just mentioning between now and the Breeders' Cup. Yeah, that's the way it's looking in the longer term. I'll go into more detail on that in just a second. Don't throw anything at the TV when you see it. I promise. It's not going to be that bad. But tonight, I mean, beautiful out there, and it's nice to see the fall color around the area today. That continues to increase. Our Kentucky One SkyTrack camera and cordon shows some of those yellows and reds have been showing up. And by the way, get your cameras ready. This camera's not in the right
right direction, but a beautiful sunset is taking place. A lot of pinks in the sky right now. So